How are the mainstream media covering a campaign that's now headed for a Trump-Clinton showdown? I sat down in New York with Lesley Stahl, the veteran 60 Minutes correspondent and author of the new book, Becoming Grandma, The Joys and Science of the New Grandparenting. Lesley Stahl, welcome.
Thank you.
Now that Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee, there is this indictment that the media are to blame for this, that the TV coverage hasn't been aggressive enough. Do you buy that?
It's been aggressive, but he has been incredibly wily, sliding away from tough questions. And, you know, you can follow up only so many times.
Right, but he does expose himself to questions because he does so many interviews.
Exactly. There have been a lot of tough questions and maybe even a good follow-up. But then, you know, you get, I've been in this position, you get to the point where you're almost badgering someone when they don't answer. And I think the audience does understand when they're not answering a question.
Right. It's always a fine line for an interviewer because you don't want to let the politician off the hook, but you don't want to seem prosecutorial.
That's right, and then you become the story. So it is.
And that has happened, and Trump makes it happen because if he doesn't like the interview, he will go on Twitter and blast whoever he's unhappy with.
Here we are at Fox, obviously. No, but I do think that it's been a little bit of an unfair accusation that the press hasn't pursued. What's really astonishing is that the press has, and every time he hasn't told the truth, he's been called out. The interesting thing is the public doesn't care, and they used to with other politicians, but they don't care with him.
Many people think the media love Hillary Clinton, but she's had her own history of testy relations with journalists. Why is that?
Who says the media loves Hillary?
There's a lot of people out there who think the liberal press wants Hillary Clinton to win.
Yeah, I've heard that, but I don't think, I've never bought that. You know, having covered the White House through Democrat, Jimmy Carter, and Reagan following. I mean, Reagan got a much softer, easier press than Jimmy Carter did. So, I mean, when people look behind what they're saying and feeling, they'll see that the evidence isn't there. I think that the press is much more biased against power, real power, than, you know, against one party or the next.
Okay. I know Trump was on 60 Minutes last fall, but the program hasn't done that much on what has been the wildest campaign in modern history.
Well, it's been covered. It's not as if we're going to get a fresh bite at it. I think we're going to do some stuff now, starting in the fall.
Do you miss covering politics in a year like this?
I do.
Does it eat at you? Do you want to get out there?
When I watch the interviews, what we were just talking about, I'm shouting at the television, ask him this, ask him that, get in there. But I do sympathize because, as I said, you can bludgeon, and the public is going to turn against you and make you the object of their viewing, and instead of the candidate.
And just to be clear, you don't think there's any tilt in the press to the left or toward the Democrats or away from the Republicans? You think it's on the personalities?
I don't want to go on the record saying that I know how everybody votes.
Just between you and me.
Just between you and me. I don't think you see it in the coverage. I think Hillary's getting a pretty tough press, and I think she will continue to get a pretty tough press because she is powerful now. She's pretty much almost certainly the candidate, and the focus and the high beams will be on her more than they have been, and the same with him, Trump.
Before we talk about your being a grandmother, let's talk about your being a mother. We all balance work and family, and you're writing your book about covering the Reagan White House, and you asked your daughter Taylor how much of her childhood she thinks you missed.
Yeah, she didn't seem to notice I wasn't there very much. It was eating away at me.
Yeah.
But I am an unbelievable list maker. I have compulsive list disorder. And I had lists to keep her busy as she could be so she wouldn't notice I wasn't there.
Then you went to 60 Minutes, and Don Hewitt, the legendary executive producer, he warned you that you'd be on the road most of the time, and you write in the first year, 18 cities, 9 countries, and you write, what kind of mother was I?
I know. I think I had more guilt than I should have. And my daughter has told me that many times. She said, if you had been home, and this is true, I know this is true, if you'd been home more, you would have been on my case. We wouldn't be as friendly as we are. We have a great relationship. And I do think my energy needed to be siphoned off somehow.
But perhaps it's made you relish grandmotherhood more than otherwise?
Absolutely. I've gone off the deep end as a grandmother. And I wrote the book because I was so surprised at the depth of my loving, at the intensity of it. And I wanted to find out why. And if I was like all the other grandmothers, and I am, we're a society, a sorority of women who have fallen madly in love with their own grandchildren. And grandfathers too, by the way, same thing.
One more from the book. You were interviewed for a documentary after joining 60 Minutes, and you were asked, what's it like working alongside these giants?
Yeah.
Your reaction to that question?
Yeah, I didn't like that question too much.
Because?
Because I thought I had earned my place there. I'd been the White House correspondent. I anchored Face the Nation. And it had the tinge of sexism to it. So I didn't like it. I didn't show it because the camera was on my face. That's the other thing. If you ever get angry or frustrated.
Creates a viral moment.
Exactly. Yeah. So the camera's on and you're sitting there trying to hold it down, but it didn't leave my head. Even as I wrote the book, and that was 25 years ago, it's still kind of churning in me.
I got that impression. Lesley Stahl, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.